Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name's Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, you can find links to places you can listen to our podcast, our social media link, which is several of them, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, our Boomers General Store, where you can buy things that talk about baby boomer tales, our book, Got a Job, and other things right there on our webpage, where there are pictures of the country I used to live in, where I tell most of my stories from, up in north central Colorado, Rocky Mountains, and up here in northeastern Kansas. It's really hill country, lush, green. It's really pretty around here, it really is.
Housekeeping.
Last week I mentioned old ladies with tattoos. Now I know I was yammering on, and I brought this up, and I'm not sure why I talked about it, because I was talking about opposites. But I want to just clarify something. When I say old ladies, I know that I'm older than most of the people I refer to when I say they're old. I think I must have gotten that from my dad. I remember he went to his 50-year high school reunion. Well, my dad had dropped out of school and then went back and finished school. And I'm not sure what the story behind that is, because he is really, really, really smart. I think it had something to do with working, but, it was so many years ago now. But when he got home, I asked him how his class reunion was, and he said all there were old people, and he was older than the others. If he was out of school for 2 years, he was 19 or 20 when he graduated. So maybe that's where I get this from. I look at people and I know that I am probably older than them. And maybe I hold the female population to a higher standard than us poor guys. But probably not. I think that's just a term that I use because I look in the mirror, I look in the mirror, I see what I'm looking at, even though I may try to deny it. So I apologize, ladies. I love older ladies. I do. Anyway, I better move on before I get in trouble here. Again, still. That was our housekeeping segment. Our song of the week is Have I the Right by the Honeycombs. It was released in 1964. The Honeycombs were an English band based in London, and their name originally was the Sheratons. The songwriters of this great song, Ken Howard and Alan Blakely, approached the group back when they were the Sheratons and offered them this song. The record company changed the group's name to the Honeycombs because they had a female drummer named Anne Honey Lantry, henceforth the Honeycombs. It reached number 1 in the UK, Canada, Australia, and other places, and number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. This is a great song. If you ever YouTube it, look for the black and white one. It's great. I like it anyway. Have I the right to hold you? You know I've always told you that we must never part. Yesterday I had an appointment with my dermatologist. It's a yearly thing, and it started 10 or 11 years ago when I had a cyst on the back of my neck that had turned angry. We were down in Branson, Missouri, and a lot of stuff must happen to us when we go down there. Anyway, we had one of the grandchildren with us, and he was with us, and we took him down there because about a month before we had all the grandchildren with us, and this particular one, our oldest grandson, fell and got hurt. I sliced his knee open. I had to take him to urgent care, and he really couldn't do too much that day in the park where we went to Silver Dollar City. So we promised him we'd take him another time where he could ride the rides and do all the stuff that he kind of missed out on, even though him getting hurt was probably his fault. Accidents happen. So we took him down there and we were having fun, but about the night before, I had this kind of cyst on the back of my neck, and I hadn't thought too much of it. I tried to squeeze it before, and years ago stuff had come out of it a little bit, but it had gotten so I wasn't doing that anymore, and all of a sudden it was like opened up and pussy and nasty and generally hurt terribly. It hurt. I was in pain the whole weekend. We were down at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. And so when we came home, I made an appointment immediately to get in as quick as I could to this dermatologist. I think I had to go to my doc, and he referred me to the dermatologist. I think that's the way that works. So I go there, and this lady doctor, Dr. G, I'll call her, and she was very pleasant and very knowledgeable, and she said that the cyst was angry. I had never heard that term before, and okay, so what does that mean? She said, well, it kind of like almost an infection. It is telling your body, for lack of a better way, I probably didn't listen very well. But anyway, she said she couldn't do anything with it until it healed up, and I understood that. And so we just let it heal, and by the time it had all healed, Dr. G had gotten herself married and moved down to a resort area with her new husband and opened a practice there. Okay, so I went back to that office, and they gave me Dr. E, and that lady was Dr. Pimple Popper if I ever saw one. Now, she left that cyst alone, but she'd go around and she'd squeeze on different areas of my body, and she's real nice and stuff, but it freaked me out, and she's talking about Dr. Pimple Popper on TV. If you've never seen it, you ought to try. Now, I don't get grossed out very often. It takes a lot to gross me out. It really does. But I tried watching that, and it grossed me out. So, anyway, then all of a sudden, I went in for my twice-a-year checkup, and Dr. E was no longer in my network of doctors that my insurance would pay for. So they gave me Dr. W just as a one-time thing, and so he talked with me, looked at me, and all this stuff. Well, I liked him so much I asked that he become my permanent dermatologist, which they agreed with. And so Dr. W's been my dermatologist for years and years now. Well, the next time that cyst became angry, I went in there and he told me we need to cut it out, but let's let it heal again. Don't fool with it. He gave me some kind of medicine or something, probably antibiotic, I don't know. Once it healed, he surgically removed it. And I had another cyst on my back shoulder, and it had been there forever, but it was getting quite huge, and a year later he took that out. And now I'm not full of cysts or anything. Those are the only two I've had. But I go to the dermatologist every 6 months for years. And every once in a while he would freeze some skin tags off and whatever. Well, last year he said, I've been looking so good that just going to do a yearly checkup. So that was last year. Yesterday I got back from my yearly checkup with Dr. W. And when I was showering and getting ready to go, you want to be all clean before you go to the doctor, right? I noticed kind of like at the top of my legs, on the inside of my leg, right before my butt and all my privates, something hurt like the dickens when I was washing. And what is going on? So as soon as I got done with my shower, I marched out into the house looking for my wife. I was in my birthday suit. I found her, and I had my phone with the flashlight on. And I gave her my phone, and I said, "Look at this thing up there. What is it?" She had to get down on her hands and knees, and I kind of spread my legs, and she looked up there. Hope I'm not grossing you out. And she said, "Well, it looks like a skin tag that's maybe inflamed or something." Do you know what a skin tag is? It's not really a mole. I've been blessed with getting a few of those here and there as I get older. That and brown spots on my face and arms and hands and stuff. Now, if you're not a baby boomer, you may not know what I'm talking about. So if you're not a baby boomer, think of grandpa. Okay? That's what we're talking about, grandpa stuff. Or grandma. So I told Dr. W about that. And what he did is he freezes these things off and he just sprays them with something. And he said he was going to get some on my head, and that's fine. He'd never done that before. He says, "Hey, do you watch these things?" And I said, "I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm looking at. I have all these little brown spots anymore. I don't know what's what." And so he kind of laughed, and he's a great guy. He really is. Anyway, he sprayed that one up there right beneath my butt. And the whole problem with all this stuff, when you check into the office, they take you back to this room, and it's always like a girl. I don't know if she's a nurse or what, but it's always been a female, and they interview you and that. And then they give you this paper sheet, tell you to strip down to your skivvies, and the doctor will be right in. So you sit there for 5 minutes, in your underwear with this silly little paper sheet over you. Finally, they come in, and do their thing. Well, I had to get up and kind of pull my underwear down for him to reach this thing to freeze it. And the little gal, and she's an attractive young lady. Sometimes they have Helga, there, but not this time. And so she was cool, like, they took my glasses off of me and she put them in a safe spot, and she kind of didn't gawk at me while they were doing that. In fact, she kind of positioned herself so she couldn't really see anything. And I appreciated that. Not that I'm shy or anything, and I'm so old anymore, it doesn't really even matter. It's not a sexual thing at all. It's grandpa getting the once over by the doctor. I guess I am a grandpa. And even though my spirit man feels young, and I think I'm young until I do things I shouldn't be doing at my age, and it reminds me that I'm not. Anyway, so I go home, and I've got a couple of, I forgot they sprayed these things, and they were like big lumps on me. They're like swelled up. It took me a minute. I said, "I don't know what happened to me, darling." She said, "What's wrong with your face?" Then I realized that I had explained to her that the doctor had worked me over a little. It'll be okay. Those things fall off or dry up after a few days. So that's my trip to the dermatologist. I'm glad that Dr. W's not a Dr. Pimple Popper. He's a pleasant guy that one time he had to prescribe a shampoo for me, and he looked high and low till he found one that was cheap for me. Because some of that stuff's $100 copay, Now, I'm not, I wouldn't even buy it. And the reason I got that shampoo is once in a while, for some weird reason, I'll get a bump on my head. And that shampoo, you just use it once and it goes away. So I don't know what that's about. I guess it's probably about being in my 70s. Whatever. One thing I have learned about myself doing this podcast there are no secrets. There's no secrets. I drive my wife crazy because I kind of throw it all out there. But you try to come up with 351 podcast ideas. You start telling things you probably never would have otherwise. Yeah, always be kind, no matter what. You'll be glad you were. I'll be back next Wednesday with bells on. Maybe these things will have fallen off my head. I wanted to talk one thing first is you do want to go to your dermatologist. Those little cancers on the face and stuff, you want to get those taken care of before they turn into a problem. That's just my public service announcement. This is Jim. Thanks for riding along. Peace out.